Hello friends, I am Kaushal Kishore from School of Education, Central University of South Bihar, Gaya. I welcome you all to this online refresher course, that is latest trends in pedagogy and assessment. I extend my greetings on behalf of National Resource Center for Education. The present discussion is a part of second headway of this refresher course, and the second headway is latest trends in assessment. And the topic of today's discussion is using portfolio for classroom assessment. We will discuss this topic with the help of different subtopics, and these subtopics are concept of portfolio, process or steps in developing a student portfolio, types of portfolio, advantages and disadvantages of portfolio. So, let us start our discussion. Firstly, let us discuss what a portfolio is. A portfolio is a purposeful collection of a learner's work that demonstrates progress in a given area over time. The collection is kept in a folder, book, box or other mode. Students are involved in the collection and organization of their portfolios and can use their portfolio to describe their learning and progress to parents. Portfolios are sometimes described as portraits of a person's accomplishments. Thus, a student portfolio is usually a self portrait, but a self portrait that often has benefited from guidance and feedback from a teacher and sometimes from other students as well. The portfolio has been defined by Blake et al. In 1995 as a systematic and organized collection of evidence used by the teacher and student to monitor growth of the student's knowledge, skills and attitudes in a specific subject area. Some other experts like De Bruyn et al. In 1997 have provided a more contemporary view regarding portfolios. This view envisions the portfolio as a purposeful, collaborative, self-reflective collection of student work generated during the process of instruction. This portfolio is a purposeful collection of student work that tells the story of student achievement or growth. Portfolios are not folder of all the works a student does, but they are the collection of purposeful selected works. Within this limited definition, there are portfolio systems that promote student self assessment and control of learning, support student led parent conference, select students into special programs, certify student competence, grant alternative credits, demonstrate to employers certain skills and abilities, build student self confidence and evaluate curriculum and instruction. In fact, the term portfolio is borrowed from the domain of art, where it represents a diverse collection of work produced over an extended extended period of time. This includes early sketches as well as finished products. An assessment portfolio, by analogy, is a folder or file containing the products of a student's learning, including such things as written materials, and these written materials may be both either drafts or final versions or both, tabular or pictorial representations, computer programs, and video and audio tapes documenting performance, etc. Portfolios may also contain self-evaluations and reflections about the work that has been included. What makes a portfolio as an assessment rather than simply a collection of work is that its contents are judged. Criteria are applied to reach a judgment about the value or quality of performance, and more specifically to aid decisions about individual students, programs, schools or other entities. Some portfolio may contain group products, while some others are limited to work done by an individual. Portfolios provide an opportunity for students, teachers, parents and others to glean a more holistic view of changes in students' performance over time. The use of portfolios can enhance the teacher's ability to explain evaluations at parent-teacher meetings or provide documentation of achievement. To accomplish an assessment of learning, portfolios must be used as purposeful samples over time of students' performance or products. To accomplish an assessment of learning, portfolios must be used as purposeful samples over time of students' performance or products relative to specific educational outcomes. The key distinction using portfolios is their ability to address the research question, how have this student's cognitive abilities changed over time? If a portfolio is successful in answering this question, then it means it is serving its purpose. Now, let us see some features of portfolio assessment. Assessment portfolios have in common 4 features. Most portfolios are: number 1, cumulative. They are collected over an extended period of time. Number 2, embedded. It means they are derived from regular instructional events, not on demand tasks. It means you cannot collect evidences for a portfolio after giving specific instructions that now I am going to collect evidence for your portfolio. So, now you act accordingly. A teacher does not do this, rather they are collection of the documents of or the works during a regular period. Number 3, self selected. Students are responsible for selecting at least some of the entries. Sometimes teachers ask students to select all the entries in their portfolios, sometimes they ask them to select some entries, but definitely students are part of the selection. Number 4, reflective. Students comment on the choice of work, its quality and its production is part of portfolio, it is a characteristic, it is a feature of a portfolio. Now, let us see how we develop a student portfolio. According to Takona, portfolio development may be considered an ongoing and dynamic process. It means it is not a static process, once you have done it is completed, it is not like that. It goes on with the performance, with the development, with the learning of a student and with the time. According to Takona, it involves 4 stages: collection, reflection, reduction and display. Collection means the learners should keep their term papers, tests and projects from each class along with a good inventory list of their material. Now, then reflection. Reflection entails being able to step back from the immediacy of the situation and examine knowledge, skills, beliefs, attitudes, values and behavior in a dispassionate manner. Then reduction. In the reduction stage, portfolio artifacts that demonstrate mastery or path towards mastery of specified performance outcomes, and these artifacts are selected. Artifacts may have the potential to demonstrate mastery of more than one performance outcome. Through artifact reduction, a learner under the guidance of a teacher select, abstract and transform documents to meet the standard. Then display. The final stage of the portfolio development cycle is artifact display. The organization of selected artifacts in a visually appealing manner to demonstrate mastery of performance outcomes and to permit a comprehensive review by a panel. Thus, by completing these 4 steps, preparation of a portfolio is done. Some experts have also suggested some steps, and there are certain steps which a teacher should keep in mind while designing and using portfolios. Number 1, specify the purpose, and that is very important. The first question in designing a portfolio is, what is the purpose of this portfolio? Why I am going to prepare this portfolio? Without specifying a purpose, a portfolio is nothing more than an unorganized collection of material. However, we have defined and we have seen this definition that portfolio is a purposeful collection of material. So, if it is not defined with the purpose, if purpose is not specified, is mere unorganized collection of work. Okay, then providing guidelines for selecting portfolio entries. This is again very important. Clear-cut guidelines for selecting portfolio entries are required to be provided to the learners. The guidelines are always based on the purpose of the portfolio. For example, if a photographer wants to show his work in an exhibition, his criteria for selecting photographs will be different. On the other hand, if he wants to prepare a portfolio to teach in a photography class, then his criteria of selecting photos will be different. Like to teach the effect of light and shade in a photo, he may select photos with different shades and lights. Thus, criteria is important on which criterion or criteria we are going to select some document for a portfolio. A teacher is required to define the student's role in selection and self-evaluation. Arthur Spendel and Culham argued in 1995 that there are fundamentally 2 global purposes for creating portfolios of student work, and those are student assessment and instruction. But these 2 purposes are not mutually exclusive. The difference lies in selecting the pieces of work for the portfolio. Like when the primary purpose is enhancing student learning by having pupils evaluate their own work, there may be little concern about the comparability of selections of work from one student to the next. However, this is to be kept in mind while preparing portfolio or selecting documents for the portfolio with the purpose of assessment. Now, let us take an example how students select different documents or evidences for their portfolio. Let us take an example of a literature class. Suppose you are a literature class teacher and you have given a task of writing critiques of 4 novels in your class. So, each student has written 4 critiques of 4 different novels. Now, you ask them to put all the 4 critiques in a folder. So, that is a documentation portfolio. Now, you want to pick the best critique of each and every student to make a part of showcase portfolio. These types we will discuss in coming time. Then there may be 2 ways. On one hand, you may go through all the critiques by a student and then pick the best critique of each student and select that critique for a showcase portfolio of that student. The second way may be that you ask students of your class that you go through critiques of other students and then pick the best critique written by a particular student to make a part of showcase portfolio. Thus, student A is going through the critiques written by student B and B is going through the critiques written by student C and like that. This is called in a way peer assessment. It also ensures learning. How? When suppose student B has selected one critique of student A as the best critique written by student A to make a part of showcase portfolio of student A. As a teacher, you may ask student B to explain or to justify why student B has selected this particular critique of a student A to be selected as the best critique written by student A. Now, the B will tell why he or she has selected students A's this critique. So, there may be certain points of evaluation or judging. Student B will tell that a good critique must have these things. Since this critique of a student A has these qualities, that is why I have selected this particular critique to make a part of showcase portfolio. Now, if student B is explaining in a right direction, it means you can be confirmed that student B knows how to write a good critique. In a way, you are assessing the learning of B as well. Is it not interesting? Students are preparing each other's showcase portfolios and meanwhile they are also learning. And if you know from the Bloom's taxonomy that evaluation is the highest level in cognitive domain. If someone is capable in evaluating a knowledge, it means he or she has reached to the highest level in cognitive domain. And in case if B is not explaining the correct reasons for selecting this particular critique, he or she is telling or stating some different or incorrect points, as a teacher you can correct at the moment. Again, this will facilitate learning for student B, and you can correct it sometimes in a class in front of a group, then it will facilitate learning for other students as well. So, it depends on the situation, depends on the context, as we know that assessment is context specific, but this way we can involve students in preparing portfolios and ensuring peer assessment as well as self assessment. When a student himself or herself decides or selects take example of this critique along, that this critique of mine is to be selected in showcase, then he or she has to reflect upon that I have written these 4 critiques, but out of these 4 critiques this critique is best. Why this is best? Because these are the characteristics which should be there in a best critique, and these characteristics are there in this critique, these characteristics are not present with other critiques. So, it must be included in my showcase portfolio. Self assessment is going on. In this way, these portfolios helps in collecting documents, evidences of students' learning as well as facilitates teaching and learning. Now, let us move towards different types of student portfolios. According to Columba and Dologus, there are basically 3 types of portfolios to consider for classroom use. Number 1, showcase portfolios. This type of portfolio focuses on the student's best and most representative work. This type of portfolio is similar to an artist's portfolio, where a variety of work is selected to reflect breadth of talent. Therefore, in this portfolio, the student selects what he or she thinks is representative work. This folder is most often seen at open houses and parent visitations. Number 2, teacher student portfolio. This type of portfolio is often called the working portfolio or a working folder. This is an interactive teacher student portfolio that aids in communication between teacher and student. The teacher and student conference or talk to each other to add or delete within the content of the portfolio, and after this mutual discussion, they add or delete the content of a portfolio. Number 3, the third type is teacher alternative assessment portfolio. All the items in this type of portfolio are scored, rated, ranked or evaluated. Teachers can keep individual student portfolios that are solely for the teacher's use as an assessment tool. This is a focused type of portfolio and is a model of the holistic approach to assessment. Whereas, some other experts have classified portfolios in different other types, like Lin, Miller and Gronlund in 2009 have discussed 4 dimensions that distinguish the purposes of portfolios and thus classifies the types of portfolios. Number 1, they say that portfolios may be for the purpose of instruction or for the purpose of assessment. Thus, there may be 2 types of portfolios, one that has been prepared for the purpose of instruction, another which has been prepared for the purpose of assessment. As we discussed earlier, for preparing a portfolio for the purpose of instruction, we do not need necessarily to keep in mind the comparability of one student to another student. Whereas, when we prepare portfolio keeping in mind the purpose of assessment, we have to take care of this thing. Second base, they say the classification is current accomplishment portfolio and progress portfolio. Current accomplishment portfolio shows accomplishment of a student at a particular time, whereas progress portfolio is associated with process and it shows a continuous progress of the learner. This means that current accomplishment portfolio is related with product. The third category, they say, is best work showcase portfolios or documentation portfolios. In the best work showcase portfolios, the selected best work of a student is kept, whereas in documentation portfolio, all the works related to a domain of a student are kept. The fourth base or criterion they talk about is finished portfolio and working portfolio. Finished portfolio means a completed task collection of completed tasks of a student is kept in this folder, whereas working portfolio are related with working going on of a student. Now, after discussing various types of portfolios, let us see the advantages of portfolio assessment. Because of the limitation of traditional assessment tests, many educators have been experimenting with alternative forms of assessment, and many have described the advantages of portfolio assessment. According to Owings and Follow, the portfolio assessment can help students understand their strengths and weaknesses. They also believe that students are more able to link successes and failures to performance and may also facilitate goal setting through portfolio assessment. Gilman, Andrew and Rafferty and Midkiff and Thompson have also identified several advantages of portfolios. According to them, portfolios can be used to evaluate both products and process. It is interesting. With the help of portfolios, you can evaluate products as well as process. It means they can be used for summative purpose as well as formative purpose, and they allow the integration of learning and assessment. Learning based on portfolio assessment can be more student directed, and since evaluation is not based on single scores, instruction based on learning styles is more easily evaluated. Moreover, Gilman et al. In 1995 claim that portfolios provide more information about student progress and encourage students to be responsible of their own learning. Therefore, students feel as they take bigger roles in the learning and the assessment processes, and their self-confidence is enhanced. Portfolios also help students develop skills necessary for lifelong learning. On the other hand, portfolios reduce the teacher's daily burden of grading papers. In sum, portfolios enable to assess global understanding and thinking skills with a multi-dimensional form of evaluation. It is important to keep in mind that there are really only two basic reasons for doing portfolio assessment. One is for instruction, another is assessment. Assessment uses relate to keeping track of what students know and can do. Instructional uses relate to promoting learning. Students learn something from assembling the portfolio. The perceived benefits for assessment are that the collection of multiple samples of student work over time enables us to, number one, get a broader, more in-depth look at what students know and can do. Number two, base assessment on more authentic work. Number three, have a supplement or alternative to report cards and standardized tests. And number four, have a better way to communicate students' progress to parents. Now, let us see some disadvantages of portfolio assessment. Even though results in using portfolio assessments are positive, some educators found disadvantages of using portfolios. Like in 1994, Koretz found that teachers indicated some concerns about the use of portfolios. Mostly, they mentioned that portfolio assessment imposes substantial burdens on them, such as time demands of planning and administering problems. Moreover, it is harder to ensure that portfolios are accurately recorded and scores students. Evaluation is more subjective than traditional testing, and reliability and validity can be questionable in portfolios. Also, maintaining portfolios can be problematic and time consuming. Finally, deciding the content of portfolios can be harder than other assessment techniques. Lynn, Miller and Gronlund believe that although the use of portfolios can be time consuming and require substantial efforts on the parts of students and teachers, the benefits to instruction and learning as well as assessment can make it worth the time and energy. So, friends, this way they are recommending using portfolios. So, this was in brief about using portfolios for classroom assessment. I hope you have enjoyed the session. Thank you for watching this video. Namaskar.